And coming up on UT Today, graduation is right around the corner for UT students. We've got the details on capacity and safety measures for the event.
We have come together as a community because when there's a crisis, that's what you do.
Plus, we got to sit down with UT Chancellor Dondi Plowman to reflect on this past school year.
And later, we spoke with 3 Vols who will be competing in the NCAA Cross Country Championship this week.
That and more coming up on UT Today.
Welcome to UT Today. I'm Jessica Davis.
And I'm Scarlett Simpson. According to the 2019 Census on Income and Poverty, 13.5%, over 25,000 of Knoxville residents live below the poverty line. Looking at this in the Knoxville Homeless Management Information System 2019 report, which states there are almost 10,000 homeless citizens in our city, I decided to take a further look into East Tennessee to see how organizations in Knoxville are helping combat homelessness. Homelessness in Knoxville is not a new problem, but there are organizations today still striving to find new solutions. East Tennessee Harm Reduction is a local organization working to help the homeless community in the Knoxville area in many different ways.
Pressure dressing.
I started meeting a lot more people who were having some different health effects that they needed treatment for, so I started expanding to do first aid, plus basic harm reduction and education and referrals to services.
The organization has gained popularity for footage of raids that take place in homeless camps.
There was, of course, like the big Blackstock raid, and we had community members out to like try and defend folks' belongings and their bodies.
There's still people back here.
Here on Blackstock Avenue is where the raids took place in early October of last year. As you can see, there is no one else in sight. Virginia Larry from Family Promise of Knoxville speaks on how her organization provides for families experiencing low income.
And for them, they're no longer a family, not just a family experiencing homelessness. They have a name and a face and a story, and they get to learn that.
Bruce, a homeless man in Knoxville, speaks on how he feels about the raids.
I mean, get out. I mean, that's not a way to treat another human being. I don't think so.
Reporting for UT Today, I'm Scarlett Simpson. And there's always opportunities to volunteer at local homeless shelters in East Tennessee, and you can donate clothing as well.
While other countries are focused on fighting COVID-19, America is still battling one of its old foes, racism. What started as indirect racial slurs has now turned into full-fledged, violent, physical racist attacks on Asian Americans. Former President Donald Trump's repeated emphasis on China virus rhetoric played a major part in fostering hate against Asian Americans. A recent study showed about 3,000 cases of anti-Asian hate incidents across the country. Is East Tennessee any different? We asked Asian American students at UT to share their experience.
My mom was actually physically, abused at her workplace, and it's really scary, you know, to see that my mom went through that situation.
One classmate in 8th grade doing that Chinese, Japanese, American kind of song, it just made me even more, think that I'm imperfect, that, people can make fun of me.
Usually, I'm not the kind of person who would like to share their opinions in front of cameras, but we should be working as a team in this nation to try to control the pandemic instead of trying to find somebody to blame.
The Center for American Progress considers COVID-19 as a new catalyst for hate and violence against Asian Americans. If left untreated, hate, like any other contagion, will continue to spread.
While finding parking on campus this year might be easier, a major loss in revenue has cost the university more than you might think. UT Parking and Transit says they have lost millions in revenue this school year. The loss stems from the pandemic, of course. They say commuter parking pass sales dropped over 30% this year, and event parking has still come to almost a standstill. These changes have cost the university an estimated $1.7 million, according to Moira Bindner, Parking and Transit Services Communications Manager. She says the department has had to postpone non-essential maintenance just to keep transit services running.
Specific maintenance, we've tried to put off things that weren't, urgent, and we have just cut anything that we could to still provide the services.
She also recommended that anyone parking on UT campus check parking.utk.edu regularly for any and all parking information.
Due to the pandemic, graduation was moved from Thompson Bowling Arena to Neyland Stadium to allow a larger number of guests to safely attend. Commencement will take place May 7th, 8th, and 9th. Each ceremony will have up to 1,000 graduates and no more than 4,000 guests. Beth Glandon, Director of Special Events here at UT, talks about what is being done to ensure that everyone stays safe.
Everything's 6 feet apart. The guest tickets will be in pods of 4, but then all of those pods will be separated by at least 6 feet. We'll have enhanced cleaning of all of the common areas, all the high touch point areas during and in between the ceremonies.
Gladden also noted that guests and graduates will use contactless process to check in at the stadium. All ceremonies will be live streamed. For more information about graduation, go to commencement.utk.edu. With ceremonies being operated much differently this year, UT student was welcome to participate at the presidential inauguration. Our Olivia Calfee has the story on the Nicholas Gilchrist and the unusual start of his college career.
Gilchrist, a first-year student at the University of Tennessee, was faced with a brand new challenge a few days before his college move-in.
When I got the email, and it was basically saying, okay, we need you guys to come report in, and it was like 2 days later. So we just had to show up and get all of our gear and all that.
Gilchrist was preparing to move into Hess Hall, but instead, his plans radically changed.
It's not often that students receive an email a few days before college move-in to drop everything and go work the presidential inauguration.
Going to DC was actually the first thing that I did with my unit, so that was kind of interesting.
Even though it may seem like a big deal to others, Gilchrist believes he is just carrying on his family legacy, as well as making his way through college.
One of the big factors was for, college. My stepdad, he's actually National Guard too, so that also played a big role in it. So just kind of come from a military family.
Gilchrist also said he's thankful for the thoughtfulness of UT staff and the support he has received from his family. Olivia Calfee.
Gilchrist is now living a normal life in his first semester.
Coming up after the break, UT reporters Mara McJilton and Bryce Olslin sit down with Chancellor Plowman to talk about this year since COVID-19. Welcome back to UT Today. Earlier this week, UT Today anchors Mara McJilton and Bryce Olslin sat down with Chancellor Donnie Plowman to discuss what UT officials have learned 1 year into COVID.
From the effectiveness of Zoom to the possibility of online classes being offered even after post-COVID, no topic was taboo.
Let's take a look at this exclusive interview.
This past year in COVID-19, you don't really plan for a pandemic, right? So kind of tell me about how leadership has been overall for this past year.
So I'll tell you, the first interesting thing about it is that my predecessor, Jimmy Cheek, actually had the foresight 10 years ago to hire an emergency operations manager who's been waiting for 10 years, planning. And I'm kind of joking, but kind of not. Brian Gard, he's done a fantastic job in helping us get an emergency operation set up, because in an emergency, you can't use the normal chains of command. It'll take too long. So we've just got this group. We're like, moving like this. But he was not trained for an emergency that would last a year. So we've had to adapt along the way. And I've gotten to know people, spent more time with the leaders of this campus than I would have. It would have taken me 10 years. So there's been some really good parts to this.
As the chancellor, you make a lot of important decisions. So how do you personally deal with individuals who may not agree with the decisions that you make?
At the beginning of COVID, we came out and we said there's 3 values. And we did this to help decision making. So we said, be creative, be compassionate, and be flexible. And if you do those 3 things, I'm not really going to criticize the decision that anybody's made. And I've seen people doing that. And I want those 3 values to go with us post-COVID. They're pretty good values anyway. And universities learning to be more flexible.
Some students have really adjusted to virtual learning and they realize, you know, I like this better, it works for my lifestyle better. Maybe from now on I needed to take virtual classes. So moving forward for the university, do you think you guys will offer a larger selection of virtual classes versus only in-person classes?
We'll offer a larger selection than we were before, because before it was almost 0. Not quite, but it was we went from, I think, 24,000 credit hours last spring to 380,000 in 10 days notice.
Wow.
But we want to offer it in a way that is strategic and makes sense. I think some things we've learned during COVID, there's some pieces to Zoom that we're probably going to stay with us. I think some students have told us they like the flexibility of some courses online, like maybe 1 out of 5 or something like that. So we're working right now to try to figure out what is it students want, and that's what we want to provide.
You can watch the whole interview with Chancellor Plowman on our UT Today website.
Across the university system, about $70 million is going toward different fossil fuel equity funds and companies, which fund projects such as the construction of pipelines and oil projects across the country and the world. This inspired student Simon Jolly to organize Fossil-Free TN.
In this case, we honed in on the fact that many university endowments invest millions in the fossil fuel industry, and how that has negative consequences on the moral side of things for the environment and the different ways that that industry pollutes communities. And then on the financial side of things, our endowments would stand to grow at a faster rate if we were investing in renewables and socially responsible funds that stand to, grow in significant ways in the coming years as we transition away from fossil fuels.
If you would like to learn more information on ways to get involved at Fossil-Free TN at all platforms or campaigns.go fossilfree.org.
When COVID-19 hit the United States a year ago, many businesses had to figure out a way to make their spaces cleaner and COVID-friendly. How is the health and wellness industry coping a year after? Jessica Davis has the story.
Now, a year into the COVID-19 pandemic, people are starting to adjust to the new normal. The Chancellor Family YMCA is making sure their members are having a clean and safe gym experience.
We have so many safety and, cautionary procedures in place right now.
Becca Grace is the VP of Marketing for the YMCA of East Tennessee. She says the Y is taking those extra steps to ensure the safety of their members.
We have some physical barriers in place, so we have plexiglass shields between cardio equipment. We're cleaning high touch point areas constantly. We also have air filtration systems in the building. These are commercial grade air filtration systems that are built for sports facilities and gyms.
If you want to get your workout in at the gym, there are a few things to remember. Always wear a mask. Make sure you're 6 feet away from the person closest to you. And always make sure
to sanitize equipment. YMCA member Allison Procup was a little hesitant when gyms reopened.
I was a little nervous at first, especially because the cases were increasing. So I made sure to wear my mask and would go to places that I knew other people would be wearing masks too.
But now with less fear, she's taking more precaution.
I'm sure to wipe everything down really well after I'm finished. And I hope everyone's doing the same.
For UT Today, I'm Jessica Davis.
Coming up on UT Today, hear about Sydney Seymour, the junior from the Lady Vols cross country team who will represent the university at the NCAA Regional Championship.
And meet Andrew Rogers, a current Vols tennis player in another edition of Meet the Vols. Stick around to UT Today because sports is coming your way.
Welcome back to UT Today. With sports, I'm Grace Lovinski. We start today with Meet the Vols. I had the chance to sit down with tennis player Andrew Rogers, who has helped create a dominating team over the past 4 years. Let's take a look on how he became a leader, and let's get to know him outside of tennis.
Senior Andrew Rogers came to the University of Tennessee to play tennis his freshman year when the team was ranked number 60 in the country. 4 years later, he tells us how much the team has improved.
The season's going really well, partly just because we've put in a ton of work in the off season. A lot of the guys are playing really well and showing up. I mean, we're ranked 4 in the country right now.
Andrew's goals are set high for this season.
I mean, we want to win an SEC championship. We want to win a natty. So, yeah.
Now getting to know Andrew on the inside, he tells us his guilty pleasure song that he listens to before his tennis matches.
At least the song that's been stuck in my head right now is No Air by Jordan Sparks and Chris Brown. I don't know why.
Andrew is not only talented at tennis, but he also has a secret hidden talent.
I'm a writer, hiddenly. Like, I write poems and I write movies and different things like that. So
Andrew tells us his dream job outside of being a professional tennis player.
my dream job, at least right now, is to be a screenwriter in Hollywood and writing movies and doing that kind of stuff, but never know where life's going to take you.
The men's tennis team plays next Friday, March 26th. They will take on Vanderbilt at home in Knoxville. Keeping up with spring sports, our own Maya McCoy tells us about cross-country athletes competing for a national title.
Many sports seasons have been different due to COVID-19. One example is the Vols cross-country team. They competed in a very abbreviated competition schedule this past fall, but now the Vols will pick up right where they left off, and there will be an NCAA cross-country championship in the spring on March 15th in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Due to COVID-19, the NCAA eliminated the cross-country regional championship meet, and the committee created a new selection process for teams and individuals to advance to the national championships. Tennessee Junior weighs in on why the NCAA has chosen this process.
So they decided to give basically every team that wanted to compete an opportunity to make it to nationals, so they moved it instead of the fall when a lot of people were sitting out to the spring/winter when everybody decided to join in.
We had 3 Vols who were looking to be selected by the NCAA selection committee: Katie Thronson, Sydney Seymour, and Carl Thiessen. However, it was Sydney Seymour who has received the opportunity to represent the Vols and compete in the NCAAs.
It's an awesome feeling. I was really nervous that I wasn't going to get my chance to go this year, so getting the opportunity to go in such a weird year where everything's different is like really honoring, and it makes me feel like everything I've worked for is finally paying off. All of my results this past cross-country season in the fall and winter both showed like why I should be at the national championships.
This is an honor for Sydney to represent the Vols, especially since in the fall the Lady Vols were unable to compete in the SEC championships due to COVID-19 contact tracing.
A redemption for me and for a lot of people that had to miss out, unfortunately, but so I'm like excited for that. But yeah, I'm excited to compete in my first national meet, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I'll come back as an All-American.
For UT Today, this is Maya McCoy reporting.
Thanks, Maya. Small businesses are always impacted when new sports stadiums are built. Marcus Hall, a Knoxville native and small business owner, started Mark Nelson Denim right here in the Old City. The building is right next to the construction site of a proposed baseball stadium surrounded by restaurants and apartments. It would be used for a variety of purposes and be open to the public while hosting the Tennessee Smokies minor league baseball team.
Being in Knoxville for the majority of my life, I believe that this is the coolest point of my life that downtown Knoxville has been. I've been able to see the transition of it becoming a cooler place, and I think that the baseball stadium is only going to add to that. This baseball stadium is right behind me, and so it's just going to add tourism and visitors and business and bring my property.
No plans for this proposal have been finalized, and the city of Knoxville and Boyd Sports are still in the process of discussing and planning. And coming up on UT Today, what were you doing when you were 12 years old? We introduce you to a girl who will be attending Arizona State University next semester after the break.
Welcome back. A team of University of Tennessee students is competing to create the most fuel-efficient, self-aware car possible. But COVID-19 is adding an additional roadblock for the crew. Phil Sabello has the story.
Safety goggles used to be the main piece of protective equipment here at the EcoCar Lab.
But now, with COVID-19 changing everything, masks are now also required to keep students safe.
As you walk into the EcoCar lab on the University of Tennessee's campus, you'll see all of the cars of competitions past. JP Nelms is the project manager leading a team of engineers for this year's project.
EcoCar has been significantly affected by the coronavirus pandemic. Overall, the competition's been restructured this year. We're looking at a lot more virtual events, whereas in previous years we would have in-person workshops and training activities.
The team is challenged to teach a car how to stay in its own lane and almost drive itself, skills they're usually perfecting in person. But now, all their training is online. Communications manager Lily Crosby says one of their concerns during the pandemic, they're not able to teach people about what they're doing.
So if we weren't in the COVID-19 pandemic, most of our engagement would be happening out in the community. We would be going to different schools, we would be engaging with students at UT, and we would be trying to involve ourselves in other outreach happening in the community so that we could spread the word about EcoCard.
No matter what roadblocks the pandemic throws at them, the EcoCar team says it's teaching them key skills to stay in the driver's seat.
What they get out of it is a lot of those tangible, practical skills, but also the skills of the teamwork and working with people from different degree programs, different backgrounds. That really comes together and helps them grow.
The team will be having virtual competitions throughout the spring. For UT Today, I'm Phil Cervello.
What were you doing when you were 12 years old? A 12-year-old child prodigy is making headlines this week with her acceptance into college. The young genius, Alina Wicker, will be attending Arizona State University with hopes of becoming an engineer. Her goal is to work for NASA in the future.
Well, that's going to do it this morning on UT Today.
We'd like to end the show today with scenes from the UT Gardens. Goodbye.